personally, I always think that writing matters because it's vital for students to communicate quickly. But now, let's first ask you some questions.
Sorry, Salah. Just you need to share the presentation as a full screen.
Okay.
And please to so that you can you
Okay, everyone. So let's see. Okay. So as today we are going to talk about teaching productive skills and why writing matters are things we are going to bullet point that we got about 20 minutes. There's an I don't know if everyone can hear me. Can you confirm up to Sam?
yes, you can start.
So, okay. Well, first of all, my first question for you, can you hear me like this? All right. My first question, I want interaction if you can hear me. So let me know, do you like writing?
Again, dear participants, let me remind you that you should mute your microphones.
What about now? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we do hear you. Just go ahead.
All right. Thank you. So, for the one who just spoke, what do you think? Do you like writing? Do you dislike it? Can you give me details about it? What do you think?
No, sorry, the voice is too low.
We cannot hear you well, Salah. You can just maybe raise your voice.
I'm trying to raise my voice as much as I can.
Yes. And please, dear participants, use your microphones. Yes, we do.
Perfect. So, I want some feedback. Who likes writing? Tell me why. And who dislikes writing? Tell me why.
Hello?
Hello there. Welcome. Hello.
I do like writing. It is my passion because it is the only way to express my thoughts and make my plans into written passages, and I can just express myself freely in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a lot of I think anyone?
Okay, so let me know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yes, sound is clear.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I would like to read some of the participants' responses here from the chat thread. So, Sophia is saying that yes, I like writing. Shell is saying I don't like it, but I think it's very important if you want to learn a new language and have communication with others. Another one said, yes, email. And said, of course, based on my experience as a language learner, getting the ability to deliver meaningful messages through a totally new language is the highest aim for any student. Thank you.
I like your comments. The reason why I started with asking you guys why do you whether if you like writing or dislike it and why exactly it's like is like the same question we ask each other as teachers when we want to make a lesson plan as a right. So the sole reason is like we need to think about what our students are thinking about. They like it, do they dislike it, and if they don't like it, how are we going to make it fun for them? So and that's how we start thinking of trying to build a better lesson plan, and that we could integrate many X factors that could trigger them to write and start loving writing, and also using all the tools they need or the skills they have to learn, during a lesson plan for writing. So for here, let's go to the next slide and try to read some of five practicing teachers. They thought about writing different. So let's say, for instance, Tracy. Tracy here thinks that writing in class is a waste of time, and she thinks that the learners may as well at home. So most of our programs, our curriculum are, you know, if tend to be, we tend to kind of let go of writing process or writing time. But personally, I think that from time to another, and as often as I can, I would integrate writing tasks in my lesson plans because that would teach my students many different that would teach I will prepare them for writing tests at the end, for instance, like international tests or in their exams. They have to write, an essay. They have to produce a paragraph. They have also to write letters workers, they are applying for jobs, they also need to write their letter of recommendation, let's say, per se. So I think as much as possible, including our writing task is kind of uh, fruitful for students, okay, for the students to learn more, to practice their skills. Let's see Carly. Carly says, I
Uh,
mainly use writing.
So, sorry, Salah.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you just get closer because the participants cannot hear you well?
Okay, I'm as close as possible. What about now?
Hi Salah, are you using a headset or using the computer directly device?
I'm using a headset because Twitter directly would blur the actually blur the.
That's fine. So if you are using a headset, try to get the microphone closer a little bit to your mouth. And in case you are not speaking or in case you are not doing anything, just mute yourself so that the echo does not come over and disrupt the others. That would really work out better for you. Thank you.
Absolutely, that's what I'm. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so as I was saying, Coralie says that she writing to practice grammar and vocabulary. Learners are more accurate when they write than when they speak. I would like to have different ideas about what do you think is saying from anyone.
Can you repeat your question, please, Salah?
Yes, I was saying, so what do you think of Coralie's thoughts about writing? I would like to have feedback about that. Participants let me know what they think.
If any of you guys would like to answer the question, you can just use the raise the hand option. Responses here. Widad is saying that writing for me is thinking using my fingers.
We have also other thoughts from David when he says, I don't think you should correct every mistake when learners write something. I only pick out what I think are the main points. I always write comments saying what I like about what was said or what I thought was surprising and so on. And Paula says, learners sometimes see writing as a core. The most important thing is to make it fun and to encourage learners to express themselves. And I can read Hassan's as well. And he says, writing should be done gradually, or else weaker writers rely on this. So here it all depends on their own experiences with while in writing. But personally, I think writing should be included in most of, not most of, but often as possible, because like you can see at the end of our exams, we have a writing task, and it is important to show that a student masters the language, and it shows from writing. Let's go to the next slide and talk more about what is writing. Say, so if I ask anyone what is writing, what would you say? I mean, what can you say about writing?
Okay, so Allah, please, okay. Well, I have some answers here from the participants. So Sophia is saying that learners like to express themselves using the adequate vocabulary. Noha is saying that I believe that writing some notes before speaking is useful in many topics, not just grammar, thoughts and ideas. They said that writing is a process, and Noha says that writing is making notes to keep them focused. Shall, when you use the vocabulary to express your wants and feelings, Fatiha said it is a channel of communication. Great, awesome answers. Please keep them coming, please. If any would like to share his response via microphone, I mean orally, you can just unmute your mic and speak up.
Very good. I like those answers. They are really good. They go to point actually, and yes, for any student, writing is really needed as a skill. Okay, and it is actually needed much less than they need anything else during class. So my next question would be, how does writing differ from as a productive skill? I mean, we all know saying that anyone could speak freely, words just come out. But what about writing? I mean, is there a difference? And if there is a difference, I would like to. What do you think the difference is?
Okay. Well, I have one of the participants here raising his hand. Jamal Sahrawi, the mic is over to you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say that writing is a skill skill related to or directly connected with reading.
Hello, yes,
Because
we do. Go ahead, please.
yeah, okay, I'm speaking. So I'm just wanting to say that writing for me is a skill. It's an important skill. It's directly connected with reading because if you want to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. And for my little bit experience, my students find difficulties in writing because they don't have a lot of vocabularies. They don't know how to make the English sentence structure. Yeah, mm, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for answer. I do believe that if someone wants to become better at writing, they need to learn. Reading gives us, sense of getting new vocabulary in that we can use. It gives us sense of being able to know the accuracy of our language when writing, and it benefits in a lot of ways. Thank you, sir. I do believe. But my question still is, I mean, surely writing and our productive skills they are kind of different. So, what do you think the difference between writing and what are the main points? Is they are different from other that could the student be like more easy speaking they're better than at ease writing. Let me know your
Okay. Before I move to reading some of your responses, here raising her hand, Zainab. Yes, go ahead, please.
Well, as the difference between writing and speaking in terms of being both productive skills, I see that writing can communicate one's thoughts across time and space for a long time and for a particular language. But I think that the speech is usually used for immediate interactions.
Okay, thank you, Zainab. If you don't mind that I read some of the responses here, Salah.
go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Well, that is saying that writing is usually permanent and cannot be changed once printed. However, speaking is can go away unless it is recorded. And Jens said that if you can use a computer for writing, you can use an app like Grammarly in order to get the grammar right after the rethinking in order for you to put those thoughts and ideas into a systematically organized written body. Thank you.
Thank you for your shared thoughts. I like them. But what I wanted to point out is much more than in writing. You as a teacher, you focus more on you emphasize more on the accuracy because it's much greater than when your student is speaking. So when student is speaking, you know, they can they can skip a word, they can a slight mistake, and it would go by because get the meaning. It's okay. But writing though, in writing, everything is visible. It's really easy not mistakes. Okay, so we can see them, and so students cannot make slips of the tongue. It's going to be very difficult. So if they write something, as you said, it is really difficult to trace it. So we can see it in a parent. So the first thing you would notice as a difference between writing and speaking is accuracy. The second thing that we notice about the difference between writing and speaking is something that really is important, which is punctuation. I mean, many students of ours, they don't respect in um, accordingly a comma, semicolon, full stop. Okay, so and they tend to forget, to write capital letter in the beginning or at the end. They're writing a proper noun, a name of, a name of a book, for instance, and how they do use patient. So also as a difference, when you are in, when you speak, we are conversating, nobody's gonna notice, nobody's going to know that you are taking seconds and keep up with your speed, um, or asking questions as an intonation in this. But when you're writing, though, if you need to let people that you are asking a question or you are talking about something in particular or expressing an idea, an emotion, so a punctuation is, so that makes, that is one of the other things that we notice as a different writing and speaking. Also, we would notice, as we said earlier, spelling mistakes are noticed, because if a student writes a word way, forgetting a letter, we would there. So that's our mostly, the things we notice mostly when we are reading or trying to correct writing action of our students. So that makes the difference between writing and speaking. Can we move to the next question? If you don't have questions, next one. Next one is, what makes writing difficult for? I mean, I would like to have your thoughts about it as teachers, acting teachers right now. What was your experience with that? I mean, what do you think is
Okay, thank you, Salah. I can see that Jamal, how he is raising his hand again. Maybe
Hello, can I add
has
something?
something else to share with us.
yes, please. Okay.
Please, Salah, go ahead. Oh, Jamal, please.
Okay, I'm just wanted to say.
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay, I'm just wanted to share experience or during my writing lesson when I'm asking my students to write something, they always ask me how to say this in Arabic. So the problem here is they're using their mother tongue. So how can I solve this problem? And yeah, how can I teach them to write directly without using their mother tongue? So thank you.
It's a good question. Absolutely. So, as teachers, we know that our students tend to get their vocabulary from their mother tongue, so they can write easily. But the thing is, in our lesson plan, what's coming up, I'm gonna show you what you need to do to avoid this problem. I mean, I can tell you right now, it's like, well, we have tasks in the beginning of the lesson when we are planning our lesson, guide them with when you give the vocabulary specific topic you're talking about, they are going to write about, or give them expressions as well, or hint with the information they will, you elicit from the topic the ideas they have, and you try to correct them then. So when they are on the writing task, of the writing task, they wouldn't to translate anymore or look at their mother tongue, because already gave them what they need. They are going to, they're thinking in that vocabulary and that So we're gonna see with the lesson planning how to do avoid that after a few. And as you
Um,
mentioned, I think the fact that students tend to be of language is actually not really a problem, but by experience, I mean by making them activity dictionary from.
sorry, Salah, can I share some of the responses here from the chat thread? Okay, Salah, I just want to read some of the answers of the participants here to your question, what makes writing difficult for students? So, like, for example, Sophia is saying that learners think in Arabic to write in English. That means that some learners think in their mother tongue language than to write in English. Locke is saying that lacking of knowledge on certain topics or the ability to arrange the thoughts in Nuha says that nothing will be difficult for students due to the lack of ideas, or says writing will be difficult for students due to the lack of ideas, poor reading, or poor vocabulary. Jamal said that I remembered when I was a pupil, I used to use this way of writing and think in Arabic to write in English. Nuha said that what makes writing easier for students is to avoid to think in their mother language in English and try to find another manner to express even without knowing the right word.
Hi.
But thank you so much. Over to you now, Salah. Yes, hello, who's speaking?
Hello. Hi.
I can see some participants are raising their hands. Jalal? Yes, hello, who's speaking? Yes, we can hear you. Who is speaking?
Hello, this is Jalal. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Well, I think that what better answers this question when it comes to the difficulties and what make it easier, I think what better describe it or answer it is a table, like a comparative table, where we have to go for both pros and cons for both speaking and writing when we speak about them as, let's say, productive tools to express one's language. So I'll start with the first part. What make it, let's say, difficult, is that the students they have to mind their first of all the style, whether they are writing to a formal body, to a friend, or to a semi-formal when it comes to those, let's say, people who are not your friends, but you are not that close to them. So here, like maybe the students, they don't know how to differentiate between those three styles of writing. Besides this, as the previous participants mentioned is when it comes to to some factors like the punctuation, which is let's say an extra burden on their shoulders besides like the speech itself. The sentences building itself. Yeah. So this is also another factor that make it difficult. And some notions like such as the indentation and so on and so forth. Yeah. So this is absolutely one hindrance in students' way into producing a good piece of writing. So when it goes to the second part, what make it easier is very simply the tone, because here the speaker, let's say, or sorry, the one who is writing doesn't make it. I mean, doesn't have to care about his tone, because it's just a piece of writing where your, let's say, your recipients just read what you have written so far. Yeah, but maybe also one more factor is when it comes to the English trauma, or the let's say the English anxiety, those who are not comfortable with public speaking. So here, when you're writing something, the student when he's writing doesn't have to to care about or to worry about his tone, or let's say the audience to whom he is addressing his piece of writing. Yeah, this is all what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jalal. It's up to you now, Salah. If you're talking, Salah, we cannot hear you. Maybe you need to unmute your microphone.
Okay, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello. Who is speaking?
Oh, okay. It's Bitam Hasiba. I'm a teacher at secondary school. And all I need to say is thank you, because the subject matter you are dealing with is our problem, actually. The outcome of our students is always feeble compared to the middle school. So writing is very delicate here. It's a delicate subject matter, especially for the quality of students. And I know that some teachers, or most of them, agree with me when we come to the quality of students we are exposed to teach here, especially in Algeria, because the most important steps a teacher should know are collecting data, organizing ideas through the spider maps, the pictures, the media, etc. But there are no outcomes as expected for us. So the problem is always, what is it? As we are exposed to teaching students who don't even know what the subject matter is. We've been correcting back exam papers and for foreign language students, and the outcome is always feeble compared to the stream they are in. So I need to know what is the problem, and whether only my region is suffering from that, or it's for all our students. I mean, for all the students all over the world, or what's going on in here, especially when we speak about the CBA approach as far as it's concerned. And thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank
Hello?
you so much.
Hello?
Yes.
Can I speak?
Hello.
Hello, can I speak?
Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
sure. Who is speaking?
It's Iman.
Okay, go ahead quickly, please, Iman.
Yes, okay. I'm going to speak only about the third question, which was about what makes writing difficult. For me, from a perspective, I always speak from a perspective of a learner, not a teacher, because that makes me understand many things that as a teacher I cannot see. So when talking about writing, since middle school, we're introduced to writing like directly, like you are asked first year to write a paragraph introducing yourself to others. I think that we are not introduced to English in a systematic way, like we are not being taught how to write like a good sentence at first. What does it mean by a noun, a verb, an object, direct object, indirect object? Directly asked to write a paragraph, a complete, meaningful paragraph. So I think the difficulty here rises from this approach to teaching writing, which focuses on the product before the process. A process starts with writing only a noun or the morpheme or the word, then we can write a good sentence, then we can move to writing a good paragraph. So how comes as a language learner, I'm a totally foreign language learner, I'm introduced during my first year to write a paragraph. I need first to understand how to write a sentence. And there are many forms of a sentence, the way like the passive and active voice. So this approach is quite a failure in our teaching syllabus or curriculum. Thank you.
Hi there, this is Hasham from the ELT Virtual University. Come in, please.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
Hisham, we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the comments. Thank you, Salah, for having opened this topic, particularly allowing us to interact and hear from each other. I just wanted to compliment about one of the comments, let's say some of the comments I've heard, and also to what Salah has been explaining throughout the previous slides about admitting that writing is hard. We all absolutely agree on that. But we also must understand that students face some number of challenges while producing some correct and appropriate text. So for the very beginning, usually it starts most of the time with some solitary tasks, like some given homework. And the problem here is that when the students, when the learners, they do not feel supported, here starts the problem. So for example, you see the performance, if you get to compare the performance of class students, the tasks they are doing in the class, the support they get from each other, the support they get from the teacher, and compare it to when we give them homework to write tests, it's like what's everything to do home, we see kind of there is kind of a discrepancy, there is kind of a difference. So one of the things, let's say two of the things we really must consider, and most of the times throughout my experience as a teacher, I've been considering when I ask my students to be writing something, I have to consider the task I'm giving, and I have to relate it to the level. So I cannot give in directly, I don't know, to write the text or to write an essay for intermediate students who have never been dealt with a certain vocabulary or certain varieties, punctuation or certain complexity of the language of the target. So the topic and the task in comparison to the level of the students. The second thing, the inspiration of the topic. So we're talking about high-level learners, let's say kind of a little bit advanced, so particularly those who are getting English as a second language, mostly in the North American side, and those some of the European countries, some of the South African countries, where English is being dealt since the very early child ages. So here, when we talk about the topic that is going to be written by the students, we need also to make sure that the topic is inspiring. Because if you give an uninspiring topic to the students, they absolutely are not going to be writing, they're absolutely not going to feel supported, feel they have the necessary knowledge. And the second thing also comes from the teacher's side, which is the sentiment, which is the feeling that the students get to feel when they are being supported or when they are being monitored by their teachers. But sometimes I've been facing one of the issues while training some of the teachers on certain part of ideas is that giving too much feedback to the students or to the learners also might be causing some distraction, and they might be feeling a little bit, I don't know, embarrassed, a little bit surrounded by a certain policy restriction decided by the teacher, and this is absolutely, going to support their writing ideas, their writing imagination. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The mic is over to you now, Salah. Salah, can you hear me? Yes, Salah. Okay, Salah, maybe you are facing some technical problems. Meanwhile, I'm going to read some of the participants' valuable answers here. Well, Shell is saying that sometimes writing is easier because you are not worried about the accent and you have more time to think about the vocabularies you want to use. Nice. Fatiha is saying that ignorance of vocabulary and grammar as well, and said that my students used to memorize vocabulary and grammar only to do the tasks of these aspects, but when it comes to writing, they cannot use what they have seen in grammar and vocabulary lessons to develop a passage. Great, thank you, Fatiha. Also, Hasiba is saying that the student written form. Yes. Rahil?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. All right.
That's
So
okay.
I just
Go
wanted
ahead,
to
please.
add something. Right. So I just wanted to add something and to answer some of the comments. So they said that writing is challenging and they cannot construct sentences and so on. Writing is the fruit of at the end of each sequence. So we are before it teaching how to construct a sentence, how to grammar, vocabulary. So they are going to put all of that in writing. Besides, there are two forms of writing. There is writing process and writing product. So if the students are slow learners, we can make writing product for them. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. So now my mic is working. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we do.
Perfect. So I think one of our colleagues earlier just gave a whole, I think, just memorize what, not memorize, summarize, sorry, what is coming up. So we're gonna try to explain it differently, maybe. So we could add up more. I like the interaction that is going on in here. People are saying what they're thinking about it, and I like it. So as one of the next questions that I had in mind is, does the teacher know the writing process? Of course we do know the writing process, but are we going to put it into our lesson planning? I mean, how are we going to do that so our students are going to be drawn into liking the writing fact? I'm going to give you an example about that. So when you go in class and you tell your students, tell them, okay, write about a country you like. Okay, when you tell them just write about a country you like, this writing is just for the sake of writing. Okay, but if you, like, for instance, you want them to improve and you want them to like the writing, say for instance, let's say you went to a different country and you went back home and you are asked to write a postcard to a friend that, let's say, in English. So obviously you are going to use the English language and you are going to back to get in touch with someone you knew when you were traveling, in the target country. In that case, they would feel they want to actually work on their writing. So that is actually something that is gonna give them interest into starting the writing and actually be, enthusiastic about writing in class. So, of course, writing for elementary class is different than writing for an intermediate class or writing for, So it is different writing, for an intermediate class or an advanced class. So I would, in one of my lessons, I would, in elementary class, I would teach them how to write a postcard, but for a class, maybe a letter application, and to each level, it's going to be different. So when we come to the lesson planning, this is I tried to gather up exactly what are the steps of a lesson planning for a writing lesson plan. Okay, let's say for the first thing we start up in the class is a warm-up task of activity. So what you need to do in a warm-up activity is you need to you start with a 5 minute a 5 minute task that is about making them listen to a recording, showing them maybe pictures, okay, about a place, and this is for you guys as teachers to introduce the topic for them, for the students, to introduce the topic for them and to make them interested about what is going to happen. Okay, so we obviously start with warm ups. Like here, for instance, I chose to show them pictures of different monuments in different places around the world, and because it's like going to be about writing a postcard, so the topic matter is going to be about choosing giving them the ability to travel around the world, and that is going to make them write later on the last task, the career task, write about or to write to their friends that they just. And the second task, of course, because I need to build up their vocabulary, I need to give them ideas about what they are going to write about. What I need to do now is to give them a text or different paragraphs, and they are going to can and do act gist tasks that is gonna make them go deep into and focusing on the text, giving them the ability to want to get new vocabulary, pay attention to some details, information that could help them write down their writing later on. This is kind of, for instance, a past passage that talks about a different country and divisions, and this is gonna help them, if for they travel to Japan, let's say, they would know something about it. So if they are going to write a postcard for someone from Japan, they would know, they would have ideas about what to say, what kind of culture is that, and also they would use different vocabulary that they are going to learn, and of course, like for instance, since we are, for instance, writing a letter, or the task in hand is going to be at the end writing like a postcard or a letter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give them letters or postcards written differently from different people, and make them, make them be, try to spot the difference. Okay, try to spot the difference too. And of course, don't forget that you could, during your task that you give to your students, they could be a couples activity or a group activity. Okay, that is gonna make them share what they know and work together, so they can so you in your so you can put in your lesson plan all about writing and reading and also writing, which is, so they would enjoy that interaction and learn from each other. So here in this part, they would distinguish between, a formal writing and informal writing. Maybe when you are writing teacher, you're gonna be in different style, different words. Then you write to your friend, it's going to be casual, more informal. So they would spot those differences. Of course, you are going back and tell them what they should write and what they shouldn't. After that, since it's going to be at the end a free activity, writing activity, you should be giving them the opportunity to know about different topics to write about. If I'm going to say, if I'm a student, I'm going to write a postcard to my teacher, for instance, that I met in London. I would want to know what I'm going to write about. So eliciting some types of topics and giving them the opportunity to share what they want to write about is going to help them decide and be more excited about writing. And so you should like you threw make it an activity, like you threw it on the board, and it's going to be like they are going to move around, they ask their friends. You have a lot of types of sample activities or tasks you can put together, and that goes for a private sector classes or even for the public sector classes, because at the end you have your coursebook as a teacher, but you've actioned the lesson the way you want it. But the next thing or the next task you would do, and you can hear that you can see here that that they are, with numbers. This task you could give them, because you said earlier that they would rather write their mother tongue and they would rather translate. So in order to avoid translating, what we need to do is to give them a model to produce from. Okay, like give them a letter that has, or a task that has a letter, but this letter is missing words, maybe verbs, maybe they are not conjugated in the right tense, and you want them to use the right tense to lead the model letter, and that is going to help them work together or work alone. And then there is going to be a feedback after that. They would know which tense to you, and they would have a clear idea of how to fashion a letter later. That is gonna most make them feel at ease, help them ready for their production at the end. Everyone is everyone listening? I mean, have questions up till now, or should I just do and then questions later?
Okay, thank you, Salah. Maybe if you don't mind some of the comments that we are receiving here on the chat thread, some really amazing responses here.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Jamal is saying that writing is a process that teach learners how to brainstorm and collect data, how to be more organized. The writings we did during the lesson as a model and copy it on their exam sheets without understanding. Yeah, you're right, Sophia. That's a big problem. Saying that writing is very important in teaching. It is where we use to assess. Okay. Again, Jamal skills, listening, speaking, reading are taught to serve the writing skill. Okay. Also, Huida is saying that writing is both a process and a product. While content is important, a paper full of grammar mistakes can be hard to understand. Okay. Jen said that this task might work even better if you have a partner, school or institution abroad. Yeah, perhaps as a start of a arrangement, stage. Oh, that's great. Thank you, guys. Keep these interesting comments coming, please.
Absolutely.
It's up to you now, Salah.
I do agree. I like the comment here. The interaction is really good, and as I keep saying, like this is like a one lesson plan, but as a teacher, you fashion it the way you want, but according to what is the outcome that you want from students at the end of the session of the class. So, for instance, like if you give them a model and they don't understand, but how about the tasks before you give them a model? I mean, is it going to be related, or you are just going to give them something different? So here is the question: like if you give them a model of a letter, but before they have seen a text about, or paragraphs about the same theme, then they will not be lost. I mean, they would understand exactly what they are doing and what is the topic about. I mean, if you want to teach them, for instance, talk about their daily routine in a letter, you would probably want to add up some tasks about grammar and more of that. So, as I keep telling you, uh, as long as you know how you fashion, but respecting the time, like each task you give it the right time, and you know how to introduce and elicit, okay, the vocabulary think they are going to need during their writing, and I would say you are going to do good, and we have a nice outcome at the end. I mean, maybe less grammatical mistakes, but at the end you are going to do a feedback, and we are going to see that with the slides. Okay, so for instance here, the activity is like when they produce their postcards, they share them with each other or send them like as you the teacher, and here where is going to be like more of a speaking part, and they are going to practice their speaking. They would have to explain why they said that, or to whom they said that, what is the content of the postcard, etc. Read them to talk to each other and communicate. And at the end of the day, you are going to notice that they use not only writing but also speaking. They also were exposed to new vocabulary, also maybe grammar that is going to help them fashion their writing as better as they could. Now, when it comes to feedback, I mean, you're going to have to correct their writing, but as a teacher, and as one of our colleagues said earlier, I mean, when you give them too much feedback, they are going to feel like they didn't work and they are feel maybe worthless and they shouldn't have been writing or any of that. But what you need to do is like maybe to spot the common mistakes and correct them together. Or what I do in my intermediate classes, like I make a gallery walk. I'm writing, I make them post it on the walls, okay, and I make them walk. Each student is going to read all all the writings on the wall, and try to correct by posting a note on each one's writing. In that case, they wouldn't feel offended. They would like it. They would learn from each other's writing, and actually, it's going to make them move around. It's going to make them discover what kind of mistakes maybe they share with other papers. And we have a lot of different ways of doing, giving the feedback. But as I keep saying, a feedback of the mistakes that between the students is much better than focusing on just one paper, for instance, and saying like this one had a bad job and you should do that and do that. That is not the right way. Before I recap, do we have Ibtisam, do we have other comments? Do any of the participants want to share?
Okay, hello.
Hello there.
Okay, hello, who is speaking?
It's Hasiba again. Thank you.
Okay, welcome, Hasiba. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So, Sir Salah, please excuse me to say it, but I think we have two options here, especially for us teachers of secondary school students. Either we change the subjects we are exposed to, or we deal with other methods. I mean, because our students' final drafts are, in general, a total failure. So when it comes to assessing, it's a failure. You may ask why, because once students learn by heart written expressions, this means that the problem is colossal. So I'm correcting, as I said before, baccalaureate exam papers, and they don't even know how to write a letter form. Sorry for that. Sorry for all students, and thank you.
Thank you, Hasiba. Okay, Salah asked me if I have some comments to read here from the chat thread.
Before you read the comments, let me just answer to our colleague right now. Before you go.
Sure.
Back.
Yes.
Yes. So yes, I mean it's problematic, but I think we could rely on using two approaches when it comes to teaching writing. There is the product writing text-based approach, where you are dealing with a traditional approach that is like that has a model text, is provided for analysis and imitation maybe, and some key features of the text are highlighted, organized ideas, and emphasis on the product. This is like the product writing approach. But there is another approach, is a process approach, that is task-based approach, that focuses on the variety of the classroom activities. I mean, you are going to present the students with different activities where they can learn and actually, let's say, catch a lot of vocabulary and a lot of skills for them to write. there's a it contains like you will find in the process approach like brainstorming ideas that come from students, not the teacher is not imposing or the program or the school book or whatever. Though you are going to find the students are going to analyze the quality of the usefulness of the ideas brought to them. They will have to draft themselves. They will have a final draft written and presented. So also will exchange the feedback. So let's say if we use them both, like the product writing, which is text-based approach, and the process approach, which is a task-based approach. If you use them together in one lesson plan, I think make miracles happen. And I just want to say that you don't need to change the school book, because you can work with it. Let's just work with what we have. I mean, instead of following the tasks that are in the book directly, like one by one, let's just fashion our lesson the way we want. And because at the end of the day, we want our students to be able to write their essays correctly, their letters correctly, their cover letters, CVs, and whatever. So let's try to fashion the lesson the way we think it's going to help them, instead of just following the school, blindly. Okay, Ibtisam, if you want to read more comments before I wrap up, you.
Okay, yes, I have some here. Fatiha is saying that integrating different materials to elevate students' knowledge about the topic is a major step to do before providing instructions, because in this way we are familiarizing them with the topic, and this is the main interest. Okay. Sophia said that sometimes I ask them questions about the topic, then I ask them to answer them, and then use the answers to write the paragraph. Great. Okay. Linda is asking maybe a question here. She said, before feedback, how should we appropriately set a situation to be expanded? I have another question, but maybe you would like to answer this question before I move to another one. Salah?
Okay. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, she said, okay, she said, before feedback, how should we appropriately set a situation to be expanded?
When it comes to feedback, I mean, if she could like let the student do talk themselves instead of waiting for the teacher to do it, it would benefit benefit the whole class majorly. Um, and also as I said before, you just highlight what is as a problematic that is common, or the mistake that is common, or the situation that is common between all the students, to not make them make each and everyone feel spotted on the spot. I mean, and of course you have to put in mind that that time is really a factor, and you don't have to give too much time to feedback, because your lesson plan is not about feedback.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Maybe another question from Jans. His feedback. How about selective feedback? He said that for some students, it might be best to say the three most frequent mistakes are. Often eliminating the most frequent mistakes goes a long way towards student improvement and avoid frustration. So it's talking about the way how to give feedback to the learners. And
and this is giving them the opportunity or the chance to share what they think is incorrect, but without, as I kept saying, without putting anyone on the spot. Because when you put people on the spot the first time, students the first time, they are not going to participate next time. So, but if you give them control over, and you give them the opportunity to say what they want and to spot, the mistakes they feel comfortable sharing in the class, it's going to give them confidence to write more and actually to work and participate more. So I do agree, actually.
Okay. Jamal is saying that the object writing. Samia is sharing some of the abbreviations that we use when correcting the writings, like WO, which means the wrong order, or PT, which means punctuation. Fatiha is talking about feedback and said that concerning feedback, I prefer to provide my students with full feedback regarding where the mistake is, what is the correct answer, and by the end, what should they improve or what should they work on more? Okay. Yeah, guys, asking a question. How can we choose a topic which is interesting more on writing skills?
Well, obviously, if you are following a a school program, you don't have a lot of choice. You just have to follow what you have and, fashion the lesson accordingly. But if you had to choose, I mean, you would probably know, first of all, before starting any lesson planning, that you have to make a background about your students, what they like, what they don't like, what they dislike, what they are up to, what do they want to work on, and you spot topics from their interests, because at the end of the day, we know that each and everyone who wants to learn a new language, whether it is English or else, they want to learn something that they feel comfortable using later. So if I go, for instance, let's say I want to learn Turkish, I want to start learning, to conversate in everyday life. So maybe the conversations about use social media, for instance, about the new technology that is brought up now these days, the cloud use and everything. So these are topics that interest me. So as a teacher, I would know my students. I would make research about their background, so I would know what they like and they don't like, what they dislike, and from there I spot, like, choose topics. Like if they are young, I would rather choose a topic that goes with young these days, what is hip now. If they are, for instance, professionals, I would rather choose something about startups, about entrepreneurship, etc. So as a teacher, you would know from the details you have about your students. That's how you choose a topic, because it's not about an easy or a difficult topic. It's about the interest. If you know how to put the X factor to hook them up with the writing process, with the lesson plan, the topic is going to be merely that factor that is going to push them into writing about what they know. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I still have another question here. Rashida is asking about the main levels of writing. She said, what are the main levels of writing a teacher can evaluate?
I mean, it depends on the level you're teaching. So if you are teaching elementary, you have to you have to find that students are going to not exceed, let's say like 100 words, but if you are teaching, how do I say, if I were teaching an intermediate class, they would rather start writing up till 150 or 100 words. And if you are teaching advanced, well, they have to write to start knowing how to write an essay that exceeds like 1,000 words. So it depends on the level you're teaching at the moment. And then from there, you would start to know whether if they can master using the tense or trying to use for the passive voice. And it's all about the level you are teaching. You are going back on.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
So as a recap of the lesson plan, as you followed with me earlier, we started with a lead-in. So in your lesson plan, you would start with a lead-in. You set the context through visuals, maybe a short story, maybe give them listening, video. But keep in mind that the lead-in shouldn't exceed the 4 minutes. Why do we need a lead-in? We need a lead-in to activate, prior knowledge. We want to know if they have some information about the topic we have chosen, and to generate interest in the theme that we are presenting. For the second thing, let's try to go into a pre-teaching, like what blocking vocabulary. So to avoid our students using their mother tongue, we would rather pre-teach them some vocabulary, maybe use some visuals, pictures, maybe bring things with us to the class, or other presentation means. Or you can also teach via guided discovery. The third part, the next step would be like you give them a prediction task. Try to give them a prediction task. Like ask students to predict a topic from a picture that you show, or from a writer's opinion of a story you gave them, or the ending, for instance, of a story, etc. So this is like give them a prediction task so they can start, getting themselves ready for writing later. You can also provide a model text, and here a model text, of a similar topic as a read task that is going to help them, know exactly what they're. And like as I said earlier, if you are teaching them to write say a letter, a personal letter to a friend, so a model letter would be great to be shown, because you're gonna give them the opportunity to read it faster. To skim it or to scan the letter, to answer questions about it. Maybe have some yes or no questions about it as well, and it's gonna help them, do. And also, you are going to help them, of course, work on their time management. So also you can of course, with the text you're showing or the materials you're showing, or in your lesson planning, skimming, to make sure that the students spend some time with the text or the passage you give them is really important. Okay, but don't take too much of it, because don't give it too much time, because it's not the objective. The objective of the lesson would be writing. So these tasks are just to prepare them for the writing, so don't give time, so don't spend too much time on them. Also for the scanning as well. So the scanning is going to be it's going to give them, opportunity to answer some questions about the letter you gave them, for instance, and it's gonna prepare them to know what to write later. And from that, this is kind of like brainstorming ideas. So you ask students to work together, either in pairs or in groups, to brainstorm ideas, think about the notes, the things they're gonna talk about. Um, Maybe you could model a sentence with a sentence that is gonna help them start their writing, and of course give them time, opportunity to discuss their ideas together before they put them into writing. And of course, don't forget to give them a brainstorming feedback, because the feedback is gonna help them, get their writing together, their ideas together, and clarify them for the board. And of course, as a teacher, remember to have a clear board, well organized, so that the students could follow you better. With a messy board, it's really hard to do our job. Okay, and at the end, of course, we would give them 15 minutes for the writing task. That's a free task, of course. So 15 minutes, like let's say it's a individual work. They would have to produce a letter, and then for the feedback, make them post their letters on the walls and make them walk around. Each student should read all the letters and spot the mistakes that are in the letters. So and at the end, you are going to notice that they know what are the mistakes they've done altogether. Itisam, do we have any comments or questions before we going?
Yes. Well, I have a question here from Wahiba. She said, how can we implement differentiation in the writing lessons? Or in other words, do we ask the smart learners to write in the same level as the slow ones, since our classes are mixed abilities?
Good.
Okay. Yes.
If you have if you have followed the plan of the lesson, you would know that by going, by planning your lesson this way, it's gonna provide you ability that all of the students are going to be the same here. I mean, of course, someone is gonna because writing is an art. Someone is gonna have an art for it and write it perfectly and smart about their writing, and others are going to write, following the orders or the instructions as we say. But if you start by eliciting, I mean, you choose a topic from the top and you start eliciting, and then they have to work on their skimming and scanning, and then they have the same ideas, brainstorm them and such. I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. I think the students are going to write maybe on the same level, but they are not going to write the same thing. On the same level, yes, but not the same thing, because at the end you want all your students to participate in writing, and you want them to become better at it, to be skilled at writing. So let's say if you start in saying, for instance, write something about yourself, this going to first of all block them. But remember, you did not ask that. You started the topic from the beginning without saying that, hey students, today we are going to do writing, so prepare yourself. It's not going to be that. You are going to start directly with eliciting, I mean showing them that, for instance, they are going to write about personal letters, okay, to their friends. So you start with with a video about friends meeting again, or about, let's say, for instance, show them pictures of people writing to others. So from the start, even those who are really good at writing, I mean, a higher level, they are going to cope with it, and they know that they are all in the same level, this class. Okay, Sam.
Okay, thank you, Salah. Maybe just a last comment from Rashida. She's saying that teaching writing is fundamental because good writing is the key of success in all other modules in someone's study, and also key to success in the professional life for the future. And maybe Mo say that because the students or learners can apply their writing skills in the real world, I think. So let me just remind you, dear participants, that you can still send your comments and questions even after the webinar is over, or send them even via email, and we are going to get back to you after the webinar is over. Thank you.
Perfect. So as to go back to the question of the beginning, why teach writing? I mean, writing is fundamental. It's an art, and it's also a means of communication, very strong means of communication that could, send very important messages to and our students are really in need of improving their skills, because when they go to university, they don't know how to write a proper email. They cannot. They don't know how to write their CVs that are of recommendation. With their essays. So if we try to make it, if we try to add more time to writing tasks, or writing lesson plans in our for our students, it's going to push them right path. We have seen struggles, as you shared earlier, dear participants. We have seen, I have learned some of the struggles you have with students when writing. I'm more interested on the fact that they tend to use their mother tongue well. I would say it's okay to use their mother tongue if they could provide themselves with a translation so they wouldn't forget it. Forget the vocabulary to use. Using a dictionary in class is also important. It's going to help them, it's going to help them look for the information, the idea, the vocabulary themselves, and make them work. What I've seen earlier, that when in the beginning of each class of each year, we say, well, take a paper, write something about yourself. Well, that doesn't work like that. I mean, if you are starting a new year this year, why don't you start using this lesson plan? And instead of just giving them a lot of time to write about themselves, and at the end they produce just 5 sentences, you can aim into making it a writing lesson plan from the beginning, where you can actually spot the students that need work and the students that actually are just okay and just need to evolve themselves better. So for those reasons, I think that this topic is dear to my heart, because writing is important, and for students to become better at writing, they of course need to acquire reading. Yesterday, I was with my American friend. She's also a teacher trainer from USA. She asked me about what I'm presenting today. I told her that is about writing. She told me, well, writing is okay, it's easy. I told her, where? Well, our students these days, they don't read, so they don't write, and that's why we need to work on our our lesson planning for writing specifically, because it's going to help our students do a better job. I don't know if you have any other words to say or comments to say. I just want to say that it was a blast today. I had fun. And if the ELTA gives me another chance to present the topic next time, it would be my pleasure. So I would like to thank you all for being here. I hope we learned from each other a lot today. And also, I would like to ask the LTA for this opportunity. Also, I'm sorry for my mic and the troubles I had earlier. Back to you, Tisam.
Thank you so much, Salah. Well, although the technical problems, and I can see that many participants are facing network problems, so it's not the case only with you. Thank you so much again. Maybe I can just read some last comments from the participants. Okay, Linda is saying that it is to reinvest what has been learned before in the previous lessons. Samia is saying, okay, that writing is the best way to assess the learners. Nuha, that we teach writing in order to speak up that thoughts, okay. Zainab is saying that, okay, she's thanking us, and she said that, thank you so much for sharing valuable information with us. Okay, thank you so much, thank you. Sophia is saying to be good writers or students, our students must read. Yeah, right. Okay. For those who have or send any comment or your feedback through. And before we wrap up, let me just remind you that you need to check your names in the participants list. If you could not find your name, you should maybe just log in and log out. About those who are asking about the presentation, yes, we are going to share the recording. After the webinar, we are going to share it on our Facebook page and send it to you via email too, as usual. And for those who are asking about the certificates, we are going to send them via email during the week after the webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And hope to meet you again in our upcoming events.